All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Asia-Pacific GNI Innovation Challenge YouTube virtual town hall. Just want to make sure we have a few dozen of you guys. GNI Innovation Challenge. I just want to check to make sure that everyone can hear this. If you are on the call, can you just chat right into our chat box and let us know that you can hear us loud and clear? Or if anyone can do it, actually. Okay, great, excellent. So, hi everyone, my name is Irene Liu, and I am the News Lab lead at Google for the Asia-Pacific region. And with me, we have Kate Beto, who runs the Google News Initiative for the Asia-Pacific region. Kate, you are on camera, so you can wave and say hello. And we also have Ludo Blecher, who runs the Innovation Challenge globally and will give us all the nitty-gritty details about the program. And so today, just in terms of agenda, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the program broadly. So Ludo will give a nice overview of the Innovation Challenge. And then after that, we'll take your questions. So at any time, you'll, on the right-hand side of the YouTube live chat, you'll see that there's a function where you can actually type right in your questions. Feel free to do that throughout the presentation and during the Q&A session. Once we get to the question and answer session, I will be here to moderate the questions, and we'll have our wonderful panelists to answer anything that you guys have. All right, so before we get started with the Q&A session, what I'd actually like to start with is a brief little overview about the Google News Initiative. So the Google News Initiative is Google's effort to work very closely with the news industry on all facets of newsmaking. So that includes everything from the production of news, reporting, and storytelling in all its many formats, as well as monetization, how we can actually generate revenue from the amazing work that you guys do, and everything in between. News is really, really important to Google. And it's not just because we believe in its power to shape societies and to hold those in power accountable, but also, and for those of you who are cynical journalists in the room, this may be actually quite comforting, it's actually really important to Google as a company and our products. Our products, like Search and others, require high quality, authoritative information. We want people, when they come to us, that they're actually able to get the information they need. And at the heart of that is the work that journalists do and the incredibly important information that you provide to societies. So to quote Sundar Pichai, our CEO, simply put, our futures are tied. And so our effort to build a stronger future for journalism is multifaceted. It's about elevating and strengthening quality journalism. It's about making sure that we work in partnership with news organizations to evolve the business model to make sure there's sustainable growth and that everyone, all news organizations have the ability to innovate and move into the future. And lastly, it's about empowering news organizations through technology. Google is a technology company, and so that's what we are experts at. And so we want to partner with news organizations to make sure that news can leverage all the technologies that we are developing, and that also for all the products that we create for users, that they are able to highlight and feature the content that newsmakers actually produce. So as part of this effort, as part of our effort to make sure that we can increase the ties between technology and journalism and innovate into the future, we're so excited to launch the Asia-Pacific GNI Innovation Challenge. Now, the Google News Initiative Innovation Challenge is a global program that was actually just announced last month, but we're so excited because the first ever challenge for this new global program is in the Asia-Pacific region. Now, many of us work in the news industry in Asia, so perhaps we are especially biased, but we really believe that there's so much incredible energy and there's wonderful ideas and really just an incredible environment for innovation in this region. And so we're really excited to make sure that this very first challenge sets the bar incredibly high for the rest of the world. And with that, I would like to ask Ludo to take us through the details of this program. Ludo?
Thank you very much, Erin. Thanks a lot. And I can't say how I'm excited as well to see this coming from Asia and what's going to come from Asia. I run the program pretty similar in Europe for 3 years, and knowing the Asia-Pacific region and what will come from there is absolutely amazing. We are very excited. So who can apply? Basically, everyone working on news in the region or around news is eligible to apply. In more than 30 countries in the region, you can submit an application if you are a new startup, if you are a traditional player, a news broadcaster, even a freelancer or a sole trader. The only thing you need is to have a registered entity in one of the eligible countries. So the initiative is really broad, is really open. We are welcoming any kind of idea from any kind of players. So really, think about your ideas, but consider that most of you, if not all of you, are just eligible to apply. Then the question, of course, is about the funding itself. How does it work? So it's very simple. Google will award up to $300K to the selected project. It means that at the maximum, Google will give you $300K, but this is only 70% of the overall cost. So your project should come with an overall budget, and we will fund up to 70%. Then let me be clear, it doesn't mean that you should apply with a 300K project. You should apply with what you consider is relevant for your project. If it's a 50K project or 200K project, fine. Provide a budget, tell us how much, what is the amount of funding sought, and we can go up to 300K, 70% of the overall cost. In terms of eligible cost, I would say almost everything is eligible. It can be personal cost, it can be editorial cost, part of it, it can be engineering cost, equipment, and even marketing. The marketing is capped to 20% of the total amount of funding offered, but almost everything is eligible, and the time your people will spend on the project is part of your cost. So the energy you are putting and the resources you are putting in the project are totally eligible. So it doesn't mean you are putting just dollars, but you are putting your resources in there. In terms of number of projects that can be sent, maximum 3 per group and 1 per brand. If you are a group with different brands, you can send 1 project per brand, maximum 3. And the application can be submitted in English only. Then for this specific challenge, the first one, we decided to have a clear focus. And the clear focus is around readers' revenue. What kind of new revenue can be generated from readers? We know it's narrow, we know it's very focused, but we really wanted to give you an opportunity to think about this challenge, which is now becoming a really worldwide trend. Everyone, everywhere is trying to figure out how you can make revenue not only from advertising or other diversification, but really from readers. What can come from readers? And in this specific topic, you can be really broad and really creative in terms of thinking. So what do we mean exactly? And again, we understand it's complicated, so let's give you some guidance. It can be direct payment, micropayment, digital currency. It can be around subscriptions, of course, but also about membership. It can be indirect payment. You decide to create bundles with other publishers. You can have a relationship with no new subscription, but you would bundle it with a new subscription. Or it can be new digital product and services that you're going to sell to your readers or to a B2B audience. So B2B approaches are also considered as reader revenue in this specific case. A paid for newsletter can totally work in that case. So let me take a couple of examples just to be inspiring here. And I want to share that, not to tell you this is what you should do, but be inspiring, give you a couple of ideas. So first example, in the region, and on purpose, I will take example in Asia-Pacific region, but also in Europe. So the first one is Coco Plus. Coconuts was born as a local news website in Bangkok in 2011, expanding them to Manila, to Singapore, Hong Kong, Kuala Lumpur, and many other cities in the region. It's now a digital-only startup, which is really a regional player. They've launched a subscription and membership program last year. And for less than a latte per month, you can support original journalism, access original story, get archives, and also the members can have specific good deals on food or travel. So a membership program, a subscription program is of course totally eligible. Another example, now we are in Europe, and it's a newspaper called NZZ in Switzerland. They already have a paywall for years. So for them, of course, innovation is not a paywall, but how they can kind of improve their paywall and really work on getting more engagement, transforming, converting more of their, a bigger part of their audience into valuable subscribers. And their proposal is all about personalization. Personalization of content, but also personalization of subscription offer with dynamic pricing. So the offer will adapt to what people are willing to pay. Other example, back to Asia with Compass, leading Southeast Asia publisher. It's interesting, they have a model which is close to what the Boston Globe did in the US. Basically, they kept their ad-supported website, the main website, but they created a specific other website for subscribers only. So they have two versions of the website. One is super premium and the other one is run via an ad business. Back to Europe with a project called REMP. We are in Slovakia, and this new player in Slovakia that has both a digital entity and a newspaper created 2 years ago this project, which is an open source toolkit for subscriptions. This toolkit will have three main tools. One is a paywall, the other one is a mailer, and the third one is a customer relationship manager. They implemented this project in their newspaper, in their digital facilities, and it has really improved their conversion rate and the number of subscribers. Then they decided to put it open source so everyone can use it. It's very inspiring, it's very useful for everyone, but for them, it also creates a new business line because they are able to provide support for the implementation of it, and they are becoming a kind of software company. The code is open source, everyone can use, but they provide services to the one that want to implement it. Last inspiring example here with Malaysia Kini. They launched a paywall in Malaysia in early 2000, and because not everyone had a credit card, they sold scratch cards in convenience stores so that people could buy with cash and register using a unique PIN code. So as you can see, there are very many ways to tackle the challenge of readers' revenue. And again, this is just to be inspiring here. So think broad, be innovative, and there is a lot of room for creativity in there. So what are we looking for when we will review your applications? So first, we are looking for specific project around online news, but specific is the keyword here. We are not funding the overall digital strategy. It's not the digital roadmap of the publisher, but one specific project. Take this opportunity to do something you might not have done without this funding, or not at this scale, or not at this speed. So specific project, online project, the main component should be digital, and the project can be for your organization, can focus on your organization, but we also really welcome collaborative projects. We used to say that somehow collaboration is the new disruption. It's you to decide, of course, how do you want to work on your project, but you can totally collaborate with other news players, with academic partners, with tech company. Collaboration is really welcome, but you don't have to. In terms of eligibility, it's also important to be clear. We don't want you to waste your time, and make sure you have the right focus. So we are not funding projects that are limited to content creation. Even if you have a great idea about an investigative story, this is not eligible. We cannot fund just content creation. Creating content can be part of the project, but it should be an entire project with the packaging and the content, but it cannot be just content creation. We are not funding the upgrade of legacy publishing system. If you just want to upgrade your CMS, this is not eligible. Online training or education-only program, they are not eligible. If there is no relation to monetization, if the project is not related to monetization, not eligible as well. And we will not gonna fund research project which wouldn't include any implementation component. The project has to be implemented. It cannot be just research. So we have very clear criteria, and we will do the assessment across those criteria. So really think about it. And I will come back to that, but my advice is go on the website. You will find on the FAQ and on the top of the application form a link to all the questions of the application form. And I'm very digital, but I dare saying that, print it, share with your teammates, and start working with your team. Just take this opportunity to break the silos in the newsroom, to work with other people, to brainstorm together, and looking at the question, then think about the criteria. First, the impact. Impact for you, impact on the news ecosystem. What is the impact of the project? Second, innovation and use of technology. So first thing, I should be clear, innovation doesn't always go with technology. Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. And guess what? We decided not to define innovation. Please tell us why your project is innovative, because innovation will depend on your starting point. It will depend on the local media landscape. So explain us. It's you to describe why you consider your project as innovative and impactful. Then, of course, explain the feasibility with the team behind. Who are you? Why does it fit your overall strategy? So how do you mitigate the risk? Explain the feasibility. And the fourth criteria is important, is inspiration. We don't want just to fund one project. We want to fund a project that will benefit the ecosystem in terms of knowledge. It doesn't mean you have to share everything, but what is inspiration in this sense? How can you, the idea is to let us understand how others can learn from what you're gonna do. There are many ways to inspire here and to do knowledge sharing. One is to have an open source project, then the code is shared. But you don't have to do an open source project. Inspiration can be just committing to share the learning of your own project with the news community so they can learn from your success, but also from your failure. So explain how are you going to inspire other people and what you are able to share regarding your project. It doesn't have to be the source code, but it can be. Again, it's just about inspiring the ecosystem. Then how does it work in terms of process? How are we going to review the application? So first, every single application will be reviewed. And not just by one person, but at least 2 or 3 persons. We have 2 bodies. One is the project team. The project team is made of 6 hands-on members, all people from Google, from regional team and from a global team. We will read all application, many people will assess it, and then we will do a first shortlist. Based on this shortlist, we will conduct interviews with first shortlisted applicant, and we will ask for additional information. Then we will shortlist again, produce recommendation about each project, and we will bring that into the second body, which is the jury. The jury is made of 9 members, a mix of Google executive and industry experts. They will, based on the project team recommendation, review the project again, vote on the project, and do the final decision. So they will have the final word on the selection. So tips for applicant, and this is very important. The first thing, go on our website, the APAC GNI Innovation Challenge section of GNI website, read the terms and conditions, and read the frequently asked question, the FAQ, very carefully. You will find the answers to almost all your questions. The project shouldn't be longer than 1 year. We want projects that are pretty fast, quick execution, so your project should last 1 year. This is the target. If it's a bit more, we'll live with that along the way, but the target really for your application, how can you make it and deliver in 1 year? Again, collaborative projects are really welcome. You should include in your project, you will see you have the application form. At the end of the application form, we provide you a link. Use this link to send a clear monetization plan. We want to understand how it's going to create value and put clear indicators in there. Also, don't hesitate to send us a 10-slide presentation explaining, focused on the project, explaining what is the problem you are trying to tackle, how you are solving this problem, why it's innovative, why what you are doing is different from what others have done. So provide a benchmark, or how do you inspire? Is it inspired by other experiences? What are the opportunities in terms of revenue generation? So 8-10 slides presentation is really appreciated. And again, describe how do you plan to share the learnings of your project. In terms of timeline, we've opened early December the application window, first in APAC. Again, very happy with that. And then it's going to close on January the 9th. I know what you are thinking now. It's too short. Of course, it's too short. But if we extend it, it will be anyway too short. It's always too short. And we know that you're going to send it at the last minute. But at some point, we need to put a deadline. So use it as a forcing function to start working on it. And selected or not, the application, trust me, the application process in itself will be super interesting for you and the innovators working with you in the newsroom. So we cannot extend this window. It's going to close on January the 9th, but you have still plenty of time. And the good news is that in the meantime, we are happy to answer your questions. So I will provide an email, but don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. We will, after the application window gets closed, we will review the application with the project team. Then we will shortlist applicant, and we aim to announce the results end of March or early April. So again, very important to have in mind, there are real people behind the Innovation Challenge. and we are happy to answer questions. Don't get me wrong, we're not going to help you working on the details of the application. We will not read or pre-read your application. You will be the one doing the application, but we are really happy to make sure this is on track and it meets the criteria. So we can answer specific questions to make sure you understand the criteria. We can provide guidance around it and kind of help you to figure out what is the best way to sing your own. But at the end of the day, it will be your project and only your project. One email, apacgnichallenge@google.com, apacgnichallenge@google.com. Feel free to send an email. There are people behind. We try to answer within 24 hours, and we can even set up video conference meeting if that's useful. That's for the presentation. The website, g.co/newsinnovation. And now I'm gonna give the floor to Kate. And Kate is also part of the jury, so it's really interesting, Kate, to have your own view on that.
Thank you, Ludo. And if we can just leave this slide up, I think, because both the website address and that email address are absolutely, if you take one thing from our discussion today, it should be those 2 points. Also, just drawing back something that Ludo said, the opportunity to print out all of the questions so you can start to fill this in. I imagine and I hope that there are a lot of teams working on this. I doubt that this will be a solo effort in any news organization. So hopefully you've got a great group of people together and you're working through this within your organization. So just printing it makes a big difference. We've kind of explained everything that we were hoping to explain today. The most important thing that we want to do now is make sure that any burning questions you have, whether it's about the topic, the criteria, or the process, we really want to capture those from you now so that we can give you the best possible opportunity of meeting the deadline, which is the 9th of January. So Irene, do you want to open us up for any questions that we've seen come through already?
Sure. So the first question we have is collaboration between news companies and tech companies eligible for this program?
I think I'd love that that's our first question, because collaboration is absolutely one of our goals here. So if you are seeing the opportunity to collaborate with others and perhaps people that you don't normally talk to, then that's great. One thing I would say, and I'm not sure that we touched on this already, is that this is about innovation for you. So it's not necessary to be using Google products as part of your solution to this. And in fact, we're really keen to see what you develop that is adding to the ecosystem. But by all means, the more people that you can bring in to help consider your solution, I think the more interesting that becomes.
And regarding the collaboration, really, again, explain us why this is truly a collaboration, and especially a collaboration with a news player and a tech company, great, but it should really benefit both. It cannot be just subcontracting. If the tech company is just providing the software, this is not really a collaboration. This is just a tech subcontracting. But there are many ways to have a collaboration that will benefit both. Explain us why you are really collaborating to do this project together and to own the project together. And on the collaboration regarding the application process, there is only one lead applicant, but they should describe who are the collaborators. At the end of the day, if you are selected, the contract is signed with the lead applicant, and the lead applicant is in charge of the relationship with his partner. So very important to list, but at the end, we have one single point of contact, which is the lead applicant.
Great. The next question we have is is there only one winner? And if there are more than one winner, how many projects will be selected?
Yeah, the terms challenge in that way can be confusing. This is really a challenge. There is a competition, but good news, there will be many winners. So we don't know yet how many. Will depend of the range of the application, of the quality of the application, of course, of the number of submission, but we want many winners. And when I say many, it's not just 1, 2, or 3, it's much more than that. So you already have a chance to be selected, and this is challenging, of course, but we again want many winners. Even if we don't have specific numbers yet, it will be based on the judgment of the application.
All right, another question that we've gotten is, will you provide feedback if the application is not selected?
So I guess this is for me again. This is something we struggled hard in Europe with the fund we created 3 years ago. The short answer is yes, we want to engage the conversation as much as possible, and we want to provide feedback. Then, of course, everything depends on the number. In Europe, we get 800 applications for each round. So News Innovator in Asia, this is the number you should reach, right, at least. Now, more seriously, you cannot provide specific feedback to everyone. Plus, the feedback cannot be so specific because no one except the project team has a chance to see all applications. So it can result in kind of endless conversation. What we try to do, rather than very specific written feedback, is to set up video calls or meetings with people that would like to have a high-level feedback, and we explain why it didn't meet the criteria, why it hasn't been selected, in order to help you to improve for next time. So this is more this kind of high-level feedback we are providing. So if not selected, after we announce the result, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll see how we can engage the conversation, but no specific written feedbacks.
All right, another question from the live chat. Can a revenue stream come from sponsors or advertisers, not directly from readers?
Kate, you want to take this one, or should I? Or
no. The simple answer is where the topic is reader revenue. So we're looking for the ways that we can stimulate a new form of revenue for news organizations. And so that means that it can't be from sponsors or advertisers. What we're really looking for is consumer revenue, reader revenue, audience revenue. Now, if you're a business-to-business publication, though, of course, there may be people who are businesses rather than consumers, but the point is that it's coming from your audience. And that doesn't need to be, as we saw in the examples that Ludo walked through earlier, just based on a subscription basis. There's all sorts of things that you could be looking at using to generate reader revenue, but no, not from advertisers or sponsorships.
Ludo, do you have anything to add?
I think everything is covered here. Maybe just to give a bit of flexibility, the main component clearly cannot be advertising. That is very clear. The main component cannot be sponsoring. But if you say that most of your revenue in your membership area will be from readers, but you expect to also have 10% coming from specific sponsors, or you are able to figure out what can work, is to have a partnership with a company that would buy, let's say, 100 or 10 subscription and resell it. So or offer it as part of their specific subscription or their specific product. But it cannot be advertising related revenue, because the main component should clearly come from readers, assuming that readers can be read-to-be readers.
Great. Another question from the chat is a question about intellectual property. Because Google and this organization both invest in a project, And will the two parties share ownership of the final solution and product?
And this is a very good question. So first, repetition doesn't spoil the prayer. The project is your project, and you don't have to use Google product. In terms of IP, same. This is your project. You own the IP. And then let me be clear. What you're gonna send, the information that you're gonna send, will stay only within the project team. So only us in the project team will review everything. The pre-selected application will be also shared with the jury. So they will see some of the application, but during the application process and even after, we will never share your application within Google with other team, and the IP just belongs to you. You own the IP, and it doesn't have to go with Google product. This is your choice. You can select to go, decide to go with Google product, but it's up to you, and you own the IP.
Great. Another question, this one from Malaysia. Can the revenue come from different forms, such as Bitcoin or other types of currency?
Of course, digital currency, more than welcome. And gamification is also something we see more and more, with kind of digital news currency that are created especially for that. But Kate, you wanted to say something.
I was enthusiastically agreeing with you.
Great. Another question that we have is specifically about the criteria for selection. What is more important? What is the most important criteria? Is it innovative revenue stream or innovative content creation and distribution?
So first, I think that you should always have in mind the topic. We are seeking for readers' revenue. So it should create revenue, right? But then we will assess against many criteria, and no one is more important than the other. I think the keyword here is consistency. Your project should be consistent. Depending on what is your project, you will underline more than the other a specific criteria, and all of them will be important. Just make sure that you try to tick each boxes, but you can totally have a specific emphasis on the innovation part or on the impact for the ecosystem. So it's all about consistency. Same for the amount of funding requested. You don't have to go for the cap. You don't have to go for 300K. You can ask only 20K or 200K if this is what you need for your project. So consistency is really the key word. But have in mind that it should create new revenue stream or improve current revenue streams.
Great. We have another follow-up question related to readers and who readers are. Can revenue include B2B subscriptions? For example, for newspapers, a newswire's company client is actually newspapers. So would that count as a reader?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So a B2B customer can be considered as reader's revenue totally.
Yes, just to double down on that, our goal here is to make sure that you're finding as many new sources of revenue that are not connected to the current advertising or sponsorship market in your country. And so to that end, we want to take, within the narrow challenge of growing reader revenue, we want to take the broadest possible definition of both readers, as we've just talked about. That could be a consumer or it could be a business, and revenue, which can be everything from transaction-based to subscription to, I like the idea of working with digital currency as part of that as well. All of that is absolutely within scope.
Great. And now we have a question from Singapore, which is, when will the winners be announced?
So the aim is to announce end of March or early April. So end of Q1 2019.
And, you know, that might look like a long time between the 9th of January and the end of March. But as Ludo's already talked about, there's quite a due diligence process that we want to go through to make sure that we're really finding the most innovative and impactful projects possible. And so that's the work that the team will be doing between those two dates.
And so between those two dates, we can absolutely be in touch with some applicants to ask for further information or even to request a video conference interview. So you might have interactions during this period.
Great. We have another question, which is that considering Asia is a multilingual region, despite the fact that the proposals and applications must be submitted in English, can the project be executed in a different language?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is yes, of course. This is your project, this is your language, but we will review it in English and English only. So absolutely, your project can be executed in local language. This doesn't have to be in English, but the milestone reporting has to be in English, because I can touch that as well. When a project is selected, we don't give all the money up front. We define milestones together. So you are suggesting milestone, we approve that. Then a contract is signed and we give 30% of the total amount of funding offered so you can kickstart the project. So we are always advancing, giving the money first. So you have flexibility to start the project. Then you reach the first milestone. When you reach the first milestone, you will send us a milestone report, show financial evidences as well, not to Google, to a third party that is in charge of checking that. We make sure that the money goes to the project, that the project is making progress. It's also the opportunity to reassess the project, because innovation goes with iteration. And implementation is really important. So if you say when you apply that you're going to do feature A, B, and C for your paywall, and you realize along the way that it's better to do A, B, and B+, we can have this conversation as well during the milestone assessment. And all this documentation will be sent in English. So basically, your project can be in any language you want, but the conversation and interaction with us will be in English.
Great. We have another question. How do you define original journalism? And would you consider the idea, an idea such as Uberizing journalism among university students as one of the proposals?
So there are two things we decided not to really define. One is innovation. What does innovation mean? Because we want you to define that. And what does quality mean? Because quality is something that can be different depending of many of diverse point of view. So it's you to explain why this is quality/original journalism, why your project rely to quality. It's very broad. So give us example, show us what you are doing. So, but it's really on you to define that. Then let's call it, rather than Uberization platform. I cannot answer your specific idea here because I don't have enough specifics to be able to say this is the direction. But if it's innovative, if it's create new revenue, if the platform is putting people together, and at the end of the day, you create revenue and quality journalism, original journalism, let's say exclusive content, and you are serving your reader in new ways, great, go for it. Great.
And I think that just reminds me, it's worth drawing out. We've talked a lot about you and your newsrooms and your news organizations. We have no set view in mind as to the nature of your news organization, whether you are a traditional player, an emerging player. Obviously, we're looking to understand that you have an existing audience as opposed to being a pure startup. But what we're really looking to do is stimulate growth in the ecosystem in any facet where we can see that it would make a real impact. And so I think it's just worth drawing that out. that it's not necessarily that you have to be one type of news organization or another.
Another question is, what if the proposal is to create new kinds of products that are not considered classical journalism? For example, selling your digital archive of photos to readers, or creating educational products or things like that that are adjacent to newsroom activity, but are also using the assets and content that's been created by the newsroom.
I think it's totally eligible and a perfect way to think, to imagine what can be done with the product. So it's not creation of journalism for this specific project, but it's clearly using your journalism to diversify your revenue and to sell it, or to improve, to offer a subscription or membership product to your audience, to your readers, that will generate revenue from readers. So yes, it works absolutely. Education, let's be clear, we are not funding training only, but if you are having something, a project where people can subscribe to some specific program, then it can be a form of diversification coming from your readers. So this is on the edge, but that can work. We are really happy to review that. Again, the theme, the topic is a bit narrow, but we want full room for creativity and diversity in there.
So a comment from the live chat, there is no new thing in the world. And the comment is, I hope new business models from existing technology will be accepted.
I would be really disappointed if we don't see some interesting ways of applying existing business models to the new world. So I think it's one of the things that we see happen with innovation in Asia more broadly outside the news ecosystem all the time. And it's exactly that kind of thinking that we're looking to see. It doesn't need to be a brand new thing from scratch, never considered before. Smart ways of applying existing models or technology to news, I think, could have a tremendous role to play in creating new revenue streams for news organizations. So we'd love to see so at least read some responses around that.
Yes, and just to follow up on this, we all know that in this digital transformation for news business, there is no silver bullet. There is no magic recipes. And you can be totally inspired by others using other technology. But at the end of the day, if you take some ingredient from others, you will have to build your own recipes. And that's where the innovation can be as well. Use technology that others have used. Build a membership model or paywall that, like many others has done before. But the way you're going to do it, the recipe has to be your own recipe with your own DNA. And that's where the innovation can be as well.
A question about eligibility. If a news organization is funded in part by the government, does this affect the chances of being selected?
So we really want to ensure this. Again, everyone is eligible to apply. And having a part of the ownership is fine. You will have to declare it. But again, this is really broad and open. And for example, in Europe, we had public broadcaster applying. So if you are, for example, a public broadcaster, there is no problem, but you will have to declare it.
Another question. If the technical aspect of a project is well into development around the time the grant is awarded, can the funds go to new hires, software, marketing, etc.?
So eligible expenses are almost everything. So it can totally go to software, to marketing. You can hire specific people for the project. The thing is, it's important to understand what is when you say well into development. We don't want to finance projects that are already done and executed and ready to launch and just finance the people that will come on top. So when you apply, the project should be early stage ideas, or it should have been prototyped. But if it's a fully done project ready to launch and you just apply to have more resources, I don't think it meets the criteria.
Another question. If, for example, an organization wants to do some kind of collaborative cross-border news project that is crowdfunded and crowdsourced, would that be eligible?
Eligible and great, of course. So collaboration can be with different companies within the country, across borders, great. The only thing that should be clear is that at the end of the day, it should benefit the region and Asia. So if you are an American company, you just register something in Asia to get the money, but it's for another audience, not an Asia audience, or for a business run in Asia, it doesn't work. So the benefit of it should be for a business that is established in Asia. But great, you can have cross-border collaboration with other Asian market or worldwide.
I'll just call out a shout out to our Australian, New Zealand and Pacific Islanders. It's Asia-Pacific, so you're completely eligible for that as well. But to Ludo's earlier point, you will need to tell us who the lead is if it is a collaborative project and which country they're in, and then we will be engaging according to that. So for any collaborative project, somebody is going to have to put pen to paper and actually press the submit button. And so that will be the country that we would be using in that example.
Great. One other question, which is, what will you do with the information that we submit for our applications?
Yeah, so as said, this will be kept within the project team. So only the project team will have access to this information. Of course, for the selected or the pre-selected application, we will share that with the jury as well. But everything will stay within the project team and the jury. And even the non-selected application will not be shared with any other team within Google. So it really stays within the project team. And again, those are your information. This is your project. Feel free to share only what you are comfortable to share, but be reassured it stays only within the project team.
All right, just a quick note. We have about 8 minutes left for this town hall. So if you have any burning questions, please add them to the chat right now, because we will be able to take probably 1 or 2 more questions. But another question that we did receive, can you help review my application before the deadline? And can you help me draft the application?
So we are not helping in that sense. We are not drafting. You hold the pencil. It's your application. It's you to brainstorm on it. It's you to work on it. And we will not pre-read your application. It would be unfair. We cannot do that for everyone, and it would be too specific. So it would create a clear bias in the application process. So we won't do that, but we are really happy to provide tips to make sure you understood the criteria, even to help you getting back on track if you have the feeling that you didn't get something. So test your idea if you want, only with the project team members, not with anyone else at Google. So reach out to us using this email. We are happy to have a high-level discussion, but we won't review, read, or write with you the application. This is not the role. But we can help you just sparring partners in pushing you to brainstorm in different ways to make sure this meets the criteria. The more we have good quality application, the happier we are, and everyone, it will benefit everyone.
A question about the difference between a group and a brand. When you talked about the limits of how many applications can be submitted, What did you mean by group and what did you mean by brand?
Sure. So imagine you have a group owning 3 different newspapers. Each one has a specific brand. You can send a project for each of those specific brands, but maximum 3. So if you are a group owning 10 newspapers, you can send 3 projects for 3 different newspapers, or 1 at the group level and 2 other projects for specific brands.
All right, and the last question, what do you mean when you talk about sharing with the industry after the project is completed? What exactly does that involve?
Yeah, great question. Our thinking around that is there are common challenges the industry is facing. So no single recipe, no silver bullet, but being inspired by others will really help to tackle the challenge of achieving a sustainable digital transformation, which is absolutely crucial. So our thinking around that is to say, we give you room and opportunity to dare taking risks, to do something you would maybe not have done without this funding, but let's make sure that the industry, the ecosystem, the entire industry can learn from it. So what can you in some way give back, not to us as Google, but to your peers, to the industry? So it can be being at an event and explaining what went well, what went wrong, to learn from success and failure. It can be writing a white paper so people can also be inspired. It can be, if you are doing an open source project, share the code broadly so people can use it if they want. It can be a collaborative approach, because the author that will collaborate with you will learn from what you are doing. It can be letting us to do a use case about your project. So same, it can be spread online, it can be put on our website, so it would inspire in Asia, but also around the world. So this idea of sharing the knowledge seems something very important to us. Kate, maybe you want to say something?
So I think it really comes back to where Irene started us this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are, with the idea that what we are trying to achieve through the Google News Initiative is creating a sustainable future for quality journalism. And the lessons that you would learn through this, whether your project ends up being a stunning success or a complete disaster, are lessons that help the industry, and particularly the industry in the Asia-Pacific region, advance. And so that's really what it is that we're looking for. And Ludo's just beautifully outlined several of the options, which will, of course, depend on whatever your project would be. But it would be our hope that people would enter the challenge with the intention and goodwill to be, sharing as much as possible, so that we are all in a position to learn more about what will drive genuine transformation.
And along the way, for selected projects, we will also offer opportunities. So we might reach out to you to offer to do a use case, or to, if you accept, to offer you to be part of an event. It can be industry event, it can be an event organized by us to share about your project. And something we realized doing this kind of funding, and that was unexpected for us, is also the power of the community. When you start sharing, it creates around you a community of other news innovators. You are building connections, and sometimes very good things are happening from those connections. When you put many innovators together in the same room, new ideas are flying, new technology are creating, and this community effect might be a very interesting thing moving forward as well.
Great. I know I promised that that was the last question, but we got 2 late entries that are both very good questions. So I'm going to pose them and we'll just go slightly over. First one is, increasingly governments are surveilling news media and making it difficult, sometimes life-threatening, for journalists to do their work. Do you have any protection plans for any of the selected projects?
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting question. I think that There's nothing specific at this point. I think it'll depend on the nature of the projects that we get. What I would say to you, though, is if this is a top of mind concern for you, that you have a look at some of the work that's available from our colleagues at Jigsaw, which is an alphabet company, who do a lot of work in this area. And two that spring to mind that I would really encourage you to look at. One is Project Outline, which has the intention of creating VPN sources that allow you to protect your work. And the other is Project Shield, which uses Google infrastructure to protect against deliberate denial of service attacks. So while that doesn't speak to the specific nature of these challenges, there are things that we make available, and please go and look at those. And then I would always also encourage you, if you think that that is going to be a concern as part of your entry, please flag that to us so that it's something that we can be mindful of.
I'm just going to give a quick plug myself on that, which is there are resources at the Global Investigative Journalism Network. It's a fantastic resource for investigative journalism to give advice about exactly how to protect your assets online, and to reinforce that if you have any questions about Alphabet, Jigsaw products, or otherwise that can help protect your work, please feel free to contact me directly. You can use the same APAC GNI challenge at google.com to ask those questions, and we'll set you up with the right resources on that front as well. Okay, and then the last question, which is hopefully an easy one or a short one, is would it be possible to share with us a well-written application document as a sample?
So first, we don't have any because this is the first challenge we are opening. So we are not doing that. I don't think it would be relevant to share an application we had in Europe. What we can say is we expect pretty in-depth application. So it's not just the elevator pitch. Part of it, at some point, you have to provide a short description, which is the elevator pitch. But then we want really in-depth description of the project, and we encourage you to send additional information, monetization plan, and 8-10 slide presentation deck. So we expect something pretty in-depth, but we are not providing sample at the moment. Maybe for next challenge we will work around that, but we are not ready for that yet. And we are also innovating here. It's a new experience for us. That's the first time we are opening a challenge here in Asia and Pacific region. We are very proud and happy to do that, but we're going to learn a lot and iterate along the way and adapt along the way for next challenges. We want to learn from you as well.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone. We are at time. And again, please do not hesitate. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to email us at apacgnichallenge@google.com. There is a very comprehensive frequently asked questions and terms and conditions document, which you can find at g.co/newsinnovation. And one last thing to note is that this live town hall is recorded. You can come back to this link and view it at any time or share with your colleagues. And so we really, really look forward to hearing from you. We're really looking forward to a number of excellent projects and ideas coming from the Asia-Pacific region. And with that, I would like to thank Kate and Ludo for your wonderful question and answer session and presentation. And again, one more time, any questions, apacgnichallenge@google.com, and hit us up on our website, g.co/newsinnovation. Thanks very much, everyone, and look forward to seeing your applications. Take care.